had to say about suppression of archaeological information that would open up a very different paradigm would be suppressed for exactly the same reason. Possible. First time caller line, you're on the air. Hi.
Hey, Art Bell. Travis from Ohio.
Hello there, Travis. You're going to have to yell at us. You're not real loud.
I'm on a cell phone. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Travis.
I was wondering if you heard on the AP News, the NASA, about how they had said that the El Nino was causing, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
El Nino was causing what?
Causing the days to be unexplainably longer.
No, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah,
I can imagine a lot of effects of El Nino, but I cannot imagine it actually lengthening the day. And what's lengthening the day in what sense? You mean more sunlight?
I guess the length of the day.
Well, no, I'm sorry. I wish I could help you out, but I don't. I can't. No, I can't. I'll rule out anything because it'll turn out I'm somehow screwed up. But how would El Nino actually affect time? I mean, that is what you're saying, right? The actual length of the day. We have 24 hours in a day, and I cannot imagine how that could occur. Maybe they were talking about something else. I'm sorry. I don't know. Wildcard line, you're on the air.
Hello, Art. Super Dave, Anchorage, Alaska.
Hello, Super Dave. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Last time I talked to you, you were up here in 89 last summer.
That's right.
I got a few things I want to say. I myself have dabbled a little in micro, tiny, those little FM transmitters that are so tiny they run on an 9-volt battery.
Yes.
And that was fun. But what I've been doing lately, and it's all legal and it's really neat, is public access TV.
On cable.
On cable. Yeah. It's free TV. Sometimes they even loan you equipment, which is pretty neat. And you can get your views out in a different medium.
I know it. Let me tell you something. It's about damn time that cable came through on their promise. We have had cable TV in America for how long now? I mean, for lots and lots of years. The original promise of cable television was that it would become an interactive medium and that there would be lots of local access and all that sort of stuff. And for years, they ignored it. They ignored it. I mean, why, for example, isn't cable TV carrying talk shows, radio talk shows? You know how they have channels up where they have a billboard and they've got music behind it?
Right.
But that doesn't matter with those people. It should be talk shows. It should be something interactive. They're really missing the boat.
We actually have a couple different channels that are like that, and they broadcast assembly meetings, local city assembly meetings.
That's great.
Other ones that broadcast advertising. If you want to pay some fees, you can actually advertise. It's just like a scrolling, scrolling photos that keep changing, and actually have real estate that you can just view right there on the cable. But the public access.
Listen, I have a break. Do you want to hold on?
Sure.
No, all right, then hold on through the break. We'll be right back. This is Coast to Coast AM. Yes, about time cable came through with their original promise.
If I was walking in your shoes, I would wear enough. You're not friends, so why about the outside? Just some flowers on the wall, that don't bother me at all. Playing solitaire with the echo, smoking cigarettes.
All right, you're back on the air again, sir.
Hey, I was just talking about public access TV. I wanted to tell you a quick little story. You'd think you're up here in Alaska, being in the vast wilderness and area. You know where Girdwood is, right?
Yes.
Little tiny town, really not that many people. Though, it's kind of tucked in the mountains, but no radio stations really get back in there too well.
Right.
From Anchorage. So these guys decided to get their little 3-watt station. And I think they started at 1 and eventually bumped it up to 3.
Right.
Well, I don't know what happened, but somehow the FCC decided to come in and shut them down. Now, the funny thing is the recently these guys have really closed their offices down and like scaled it down to like just a really small launching station right here in Anchorage. So I really find it really hard to believe why they would just all of a sudden crack the whip on a little, town.
Well,
It's kind of,
let me tell you something. It depends, for example, to some degree on the attitude of the FCC field office. And the one in Anchorage has been traditionally very tough on any sort of illicit broadcast at all.
right.
And so
It's a lot of aircraft that we have to really watch
Yep.
their band.
Yep. So that you just answered your own question.
Right. Well, I wanted to ask you real fast. Isn't 25 watts on AM the legal limit to broadcast instead of license?
Hell no. No, it's 100 milliwatts.
I get a lot of those little catalogs that at the back of, Popular Communications and Popular Electronics magazines.
Yep.
And you look at a lot of those little clandestine catalogs, and I get a bunch of them in the mail, and they were offering a 25-watt built, ready to go
Oh, yeah.
tube station.
Right. Well, there's nothing illicit or illegal about having the equipment. It's using it.
Right.
That's when you get in trouble.
Exactly.
All right.
Well, I'm going to dig up, because I have somewhere on tape where I had called you about 3 years ago, and I had done a little prediction. About 3 to 4 years ago, I had done a little prediction. And I had predicted that the jet stream was going to lower itself from coming up here in, Alaska and up in Canada. It's going to push its way down.
You get that tape and play it for me.
And I'm going to try and find it for you, all right?
All right? All right. Then take care. I know certainly Ed Dames made that prediction, and it came true. Say what you will, and much is said, of course, about Ed Dames, but many of his predictions have come true. Some haven't. Some have yet to manifest if they're going to. And let's see, are there really any that... I'm not sure I can say there are any that absolutely have not occurred. But I know there are quite a few that have. And the jet stream was definitely one of them. Mutations of frogs and fish, that was definitely one of them. Another one of them. Very seriously difficult predictions to make that came true. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hi, Art. This is Kent from Florida.
Yes, sir.
I assume that you support the Constitution of the United States, do you?
I do.
And you know that the Constitution of the United States, the authority of the national government to the affairs within a state is limited to the Commerce Clause.
Yeah, 10th Amendment stuff.
Well, it's not 10th Amendment.
Well, yeah, you're going to argue it using the 10th Amendment.
The point is that the very act that the FCC is operating under only allows them to regulate interstate, not intrastate.
I know.
And it's time that we got our fingers out of our butts and stop the national government from doing all the illegal things. Just a real simple example, and I'm not arguing that we shouldn't abide by the concepts therein.
Well, okay, let me stop. Are you arguing that the Communications Act of 1934 is unconstitutional?
Well, if it says interstate, it's not unconstitutional, but the enforcement is unconstitutional when it comes in and acts upon things that don't go beyond the borders of the state. Now, just to give you an example, there's a case called Diet versus Turner, DYETT. It's 1968. I think it's 435 or 439 Pacific 2nd. It's out of Utah. It's the Supreme Court of Utah. In that case, they spent about 14, 15 pages going through the entire history, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, and show very clearly that according to any common sense and legal perception of the facts, they were never ratified. It doesn't make any difference. Another case says it doesn't, the Supreme Court said,
Look, you live in America where if you really want to argue these fine legal points and maybe win, who knows, you can get an attorney, find an attorney or a team of them and take this thing all the way out.
how about a little support from the talk radio hosts, Art?
I give you all the support. I mean, argue all you want. That's what America's all about.
Then let's tell the FCC to shove it back into the District of Criminals when it doesn't go beyond state borders.
Well, if you want to fight that fight, you go right ahead. I don't want to fight that fight because I happen to believe that without that regulation, we would, with regard to the FCC, we would live in a place where we couldn't understand anything, where commercial broadcasting is being clobbered. I'm not for that. I'm sorry, I'm not. But
Why not let the states? Why not let the states license broadcast within the state?
Okay, fine. Well, because broadcasting by its very nature state lines. I don't want to get into this argument with you. I'm saying you have the ability to go fight that fight.
No. The point is, if you don't fight it, Art will all lose.
All for it. I mean, look, lots of people fight fights that Art Bell doesn't fight.
Like the income tax being illegally enforced. I don't want to get into the specific issues. I simply want to get in the context of when people allow it to happen.
Well, look, sir, you go right ahead. I don't share the same belief that you do. So that's what America
got a national government, Art, not a federal government.
Okay, I appreciate your call. It's like people who call and says 16th was never ratified, so old and something. I don't want to fight that fight either. I want revision of our tax system. I'd love to see a flat tax. Don't think it'll happen. It'd take the power out of the hands of the Washington bureaucrats, and that's all they've got really is power to try and modify social behavior with tax adjustment to tax regulations. But you're welcome to go fight that fight. But don't tell me that I have to fight your fight, because I may not believe as you believe. East of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi. Brian, I can barely hear you. You must have your phone on your chin. Yeah.
Derek, sorry about that. I was on your webpage with your biography.
Yes.
You're on there talking about pirate radio, and then Sean, it's really cool. Probably one of your younger listeners. My grandpa said, "Oh, this is this guy." Right, I started. But anyway, my question is, how could I get
Pirate radio?
Yeah.
I think that I have to refrain from giving you specific instructions because I really don't want to get in more trouble than I'm in already. But there are lots of, you're on the internet, right? You said you had a computer. Go to one of the search engines, Yahoo, whatever, and just enter pirate radio. And
oh yeah, I've done that. I got a couple of.
Well, you don't need me to tell you what to do that. Okay?
Okay, I enjoy your show a lot. Your webpage is great.
Thank you. It is very different, and those of you who would like to take a look, I think you'll enjoy it. www.artbell.com. West of the Rockies, you're on the air. Hi.
Hey, Art.
Hey, yes.
Surprised I got through.
Everybody is.
Actually, I've got to talk to you about. I hear you're interested in Bigfoot and Sasquatches.
Of course.
Well, I've got some interest in history. By the way, my name is Eric. I really don't want to tell you where I'm from because of the information I'm about to give you.
All right. Eric, from an undefined geographic location.
Basically, they were setting up an expedition here about a month ago. Basically, a local guy, he had a kind of a small kind of wonders of the universe type of store kind of going on in the museum. And he was setting up an exposition, or an expedition.
What was the goal of the expedition?
Basically, he basically said that he had proof that they existed, and this expedition was going to go out and find them.
And then do what? Capture or kill?
No, neither or. Just basically just observe. He didn't want anything to do with any negative aspects of killing them. Not even taking pictures. It was just an expedition to go out and see them.
Yeah.
Well, it got canceled. All of a sudden, out of the blue, it just got canceled.
Okay.
It turns out that I ran into a friend of mine up here. Him and his family know of an exact spot where they, live or whatever it may be. Now, I haven't seen this for myself. I'm kind of a skeptic myself. I like to have an open mind, but the stories that I've heard, and I actually went over to this guy's house, and he had about 7 or family members out there telling stories of these experiences they had with them, and it was very interesting. I mean, the looks on the faces of these people and the way they were telling the story, it really made you believe that they were really telling you the truth.
Well, there's a great probability that these creatures do exist. Now, why did they cancel the expedition? I don't understand.
That's a good question. Me and my friend were actually going to sign up for it and go out and take a look because, you know, I've got a lot of family in this area. I didn't grow up around here, but I got a lot of family in this area, and I had never heard anybody say they'd never seen anything like that before. But according to this very large article in the local newspaper, that there were a lot of locals that have seen it, and there were actually hinted towards places in the local forest that they have actually seen them, and some of the local ranchers and whatnot have
Okay,
actually.
there's only one part of what you said that doesn't make sense. I can understand that they would not, that they might, on moral grounds, not want to capture, certainly not to kill a Bigfoot, but not to take photographs. Oh, come on.
Well,
I mean, afterwards, instead of telling small stories, you can come back and say, here, look at this.
I'm sure that. But from what I've been hearing about people who actually have that experience, and by the way, I'm set up to actually go up with one of my friends who actually kind of introduced it to me and told me the stories. He's actually going to take me out there and show me where these supposedly are.
Well, for God's sakes, take a camera.
Well, you know, from what I understand is, it sounds really awkward, and you know, for me, and an open-minded person, I kind of find it hard to believe. But they say that they actually can sense your intentions. I
don't reject that as a possibility, but maybe one of them would allow a photograph to be taken. I mean, look at Patterson film. So.
It's possible, but you know, when they've gone out there like fishing and whatnot, they've had actually like experiences with them, and they say you can smell them from a mile away.
That's what they say.
They say there's no other smell like them. They say they actually, when they go out hunting, see, it's a good spot to go hunting out there. And they used to go hunting out there a lot. Well, every time they'd ever take a gun out there, something bad would happen. They'd end up getting a flat tire. They actually, you know, I find this one hard to believe.
All right, well, if you actually see one, communicate to me, and I'll abide by whatever conditions are set up, and I'll go out and look at it myself.
Hey, most definitely. Like I said, I'm going to be set up to go out here any day, go out and check this out. And like I said, I'd love to see it myself. And if I can get some proof myself, believe you me, you're going to be the first one I'm going to tell.
All right, believe you me, it'll be the first website it'll go up on, too. And I mean, boom, like that. I think there's a pretty good probability that a creature exists or continues to exist or exists in some sort of parallel universe, and occasionally things get mixed up and things slide through and find portals, and or any of the above, but that there is a reason for all these stories. That's possible. Call the wild card line, area 702-727-1295. Perzella? Well, now see, I had to bleep that out. You're not allowed to use your last name, Mel, on the air. But let's start again. Your name is Mel, and you're in Flagstaff.
Yeah, Mesa.
Mesa, Arizona.
Okay, it's Arizona, yeah. We still on talk about any subject?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard a young man just a few minutes ago on the radio talking about his prediction of jet stream moving south, I believe.
Right.
Just recently, I understand some winds that's never been recorded that high before in one of our islands.
That's wrong. Oh, listen, we have had winds on mountaintops in the Northeast, record-breaking winds that have never been recorded. Islands, as you point out, we've had typhoons that have reached record proportions.
Okay.
The weather is changing, my friend.
Oh, no kidding. Hey, by the way, I want to inject right here a little admiration particle. You've been an old friend for many years when I was working on security posts at night, and thank God you were there.
Well, thank you.
I hope this young man is aware that when he says that he moved, that he rules in the possibility of moving down. This is occurring in several places, and where it touches down, all hell breaks loose.
Oh, I know.
Okay. I want to think and let's make room for somebody else. Okay?
Okay.
Last night I was listening to this young gentleman on your show talking about being an ambassador, not an ambassador, but
That was the night before.
yeah, an envoy.
And he was a copy editor for the Los Angeles Times.
Correct. Impressive. Excellent show.
Yep.
I'm going to get the book. Couldn't get through to you, but gosh, the question I would like to ask him, and I'll get the answer maybe in the book, is that perhaps when you do converse with an alien, the wrong thing to ask him would be, where are you from? I'm pretty sure that you would get a more precise answer if you ask, when are you from?
All right, thank you. Well, if you believe in Einstein's laws, then that might be a more appropriate question. Because if indeed the speed of light can never be exceeded, either by trickery, as in jumping across, or in simply exceeding it, breaking a law that many things cannot be broken. If that law stands, then it's a pretty sad situation for us, because we're going to have to stay home. Now, that doesn't mean only on Earth, but frankly, for human beings, most of the planets in our system are not that flesh-friendly. So we all have to hope that the speed of light, in some manner, through trickery or through reality, may be exceeded. Otherwise, we're not. Call toll-free 1-800-618-8255. Oh, you gave your last. No, well, everybody's suddenly giving their last name. Oh, you're not allowed to give your last name on there. What is your first name only, please?
Joy,
Joy. All right, Joy. Where are you?
Syracuse, California.
KFCO country. Joy, turn your radio off, if you will, please. That's the next rule. And there you go. Oh, what's on your mind?
Well, I was calling to discuss one I noticed that you're having on your website, talking to Silver Ravenwolf,
Yes.
Pride and Silver Broomstick,
Yes.
and I wanted to compliment you for interviewing someone who is really someone who understands witchcraft and neo-paganism.
I appreciate that. You know me. I'll do anything until they come and get it.
Well,
That could be later today.
I seriously don't think very much of neo-pagan. I wouldn't do that. I've listened to your show for a long time and find your interviews very fascinating. And was hoping that we might hear an interview with a druid.
Well, I'll see what I can do. I'll tell you what. My program is over, so my little neo-pagan Joy, you're going to get to say goodnight. Say goodnight to everybody.
Good night to everybody, and across the nation, Art Bell.
That's it. Good night. That's all from the high desert this night. Good night, all. Pat Murphy is president of the Association of Clandestine Radio Enthusiasts, 1995 to the present time. Now, what does that mean, clandestine radio enthusiasts? That'd be a bunch of people that broadcast without license, either in the AM, FM broadcast band or on shortwave or maybe even on television. It would include all of those folks. He has written articles for Popular Communications, Monitoring Times, and other hobby communication magazines about pirate and clandestine radio phenomena. Past president of the National Association of Radio Talk Show Hosts, wow, 1991 to 1992. Political analyst for WAVY-TV, Channel 10, NBC in Norfolk, Virginia, 1986 to the present time. Director of Operations for 4M Communications. Operator of HA and all news stations in Virginia, 1996 to include the present time. Operations Manager and Morning Talk Show host for WTAR AM 790, Virginia, through 1996. Operations Manager, Morning Talk Show host for WNIS AM 850 Norfolk, Virginia, 86 through 93. Chief Administrative Aide for the Governor of Montana. Wow, 1980 through 1986. Owner of WYVA-FM, a 50-kilowatt Youngstown, Virginia radio station, 76 through 80. Noon anchor of WTTG TV5 in Washington, D.C. and political reporter, 72 through 76. United States Marine Corps, 6 through 9, Vietnam service. University of Hawaii, a Bachelor of Science, Political Science degree. University of Montana, MS Administration. Here is our man, Pat Murphy, to talk about clandestine or pirate, if you will, broadcasting. Pat, with this much commercial broadcasting in your background, even in your present bio, how can you serve as president of such an association?
Well, the association is, by the way, thanks for having me on.
Sure.
And after listening to my resume, I realize I can't hold a steady job.
Nobody in broadcasting does.
That's right. The Association of Clandestine Radio Enthusiasts is a group of people who, many of us have military backgrounds in communications, but we enjoy listening to pirates and people who seize the airwaves. It's not that we promote pirate radio, although the FCC is at times that we promote it, but then again, in my job as political analyst, I talk about politicians, which doesn't mean I necessarily promote crooked politicians either.
Is that how you answer the FCC when they
absolutely. Really? I mean, the fact that the phenomena is there, and that we have a newsletter that I have to tell you, we probably have at least 200 loggings a month of anywhere from shortwave to FM to TV pirates who simply seize the airwaves, many of them political in nature, who simply want to have a voice about what's going on.
I'm doing a chancy thing here because next week is going to be, well, not next week, following week, is going to be the National Association of Broadcasters meeting in Las Vegas, which is just over the hill from me.
Sure.
And as you know, I'm on 400 affiliates nationwide, commercial affiliates, and they're going to be listening, I'm sure, very carefully. As a matter of fact, I've had several owners of radio stations send me all kinds of faxes here about what we were going to talk about tonight. And here's an interesting thing, that most of them are sympathetic to what we're talking about, but each one inevitably ends their fax by saying, for God's sakes, don't use my name. Sure. Happy to be one of your affiliates, but God, don't use my name.
It's funny, I find that the chief engineers of many radio stations are quite sympathetic to the pirates because, for the most part, and I have to admit, as a youngster, I had one of those nice little Lafayette, what they called a turntable amplifier.
That's right, I have one too.
And it was in this little aqua green case, and I put together a little radio station when I was in high school in my basement. And we broadcast to the neighborhood until we really got interested in girls, and then it was a weekend thing.
Classic.
And I think I've just had a fascination for it ever since. And it's remarkable how many people there are. You can't just say don't talk about it and it will go away. Just since October 24th of last year, there have been 15 busts by the FCC.
Yeah, I think there were some real serious ones down in Florida recently, weren't there?
Oh, well, there was one. In fact, it was Tampa's Party Pirate in Tampa, where they used a SWAT team of U.S. Marshals to go in, which Tampa certainly is overkill. The guy had a 100-watt station. Most of these stations are 20 watts.
That's pretty good size. 100 watts what, on FM?
On FM.
Oh, that's pretty serious.
Oh, sure.
100-watt FM station gets out pretty well now. I have an affiliate in Tampa, WFLA.
Yeah.
They probably are going to be real concerned about somebody doing. Was it like a 24-hour operation?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, see.
Most of these guys getting busted are doing 24 hours around the clock. And but they've got a lot of people involved. They're doing something that the local commercial broadcasters have long ago abandoned, and that is that they get the community involved in the station. They're talking about local people. We've gotten with the consolidation in commercial broadcasting and with consultants who have mediocratized everything in broadcasting, everything's at the lowest common denominator. They take chances. They do interesting radio, and the big chains don't do that anymore because they have one national program director who says, well, I'll do it this way.
I know.
And that's the end of any creativity. So I think they are filling a gap in that respect. But I'm wondering because I know that Bill Kennard of the FCC is interested in this. He's opened the door for the Mass Media Bureau to accept petitions. There's at least 4 petitions in front of the FCC now to open up some form of low-power broadcasting. I do wonder that if they do legitimize this, how many of these people that are pirates now will in fact get a license?
It's a good question. The very nature of piracy suggests they are not interested in the traditional path to a license, or you might suggest that they would get a license if it was economically feasible. In other words, one of the reasons that some people are doing this is because right now to get a commercial broadcast license, well, you could probably tell me how much you have to spend. You know, from the time you have the idea until the thing goes on the air.
We just built a station here, a 20,000 watt station, where we started from scratch. We cleared the land, we built the towers, right from the ground up, and it cost about $850,000. And well, I haven't seen the lawyers built it last week.
There you are. So that really is one gigantic factor. But the other is adventure. And the third, I suppose, is doing something illegal and sort of getting away with it. Now, I'll tell you right up front that I have a considerable amount of piracy in my background. A lot that I cannot talk about because I'm sure not enough years have gone by. Some of which I can talk about. But I've got a lot of piracy. I did a lot of it in every medium that we are discussing. FM, AM, television, and shortwave. I've done it all.
And you had fun doing it too, didn't you?
Oh, God, I had a blast. I really had a blast. Unfortunately, I can't talk about it all because there are some really good stories. And unfortunately, I had to hang up my pirate hat. I've got too many FCC licenses, and I've got too much to lose now, career-wise, you know, being the syndicated talk shows and all that.
I think what the pirates have found that the commercial broadcasters have lost is that they're having a lot of fun doing this, and I think it not only spreads over to the listeners. I enjoy listening to it. Now, there's other aspects. We're talking about the micro-power FM broadcasters, but there are literally hundreds of short-wave broadcasters who do probably some of the best production I have ever heard on radio. And they're on for 30, 40, 50 minutes. They're off the air, they're gone. So there's not only the FM, but there's also the short-wave group that are very, very big. As you point out, there's some TV pirates, but they're very small and localized because TV signals don't get out as well as certainly shortwave or even FM.
I can't talk about it. It can be done. Believe me,
sure.
It can be done using single channel modulators and line amplifiers, and
you're just being up on a hill someplace. Certainly helps.
God, I wish I could. I did some television, but I really can't. I can't talk about that. I'm sure I can. I'm sure I get busted somehow. Are you generally, as president of this association and as a commercial broadcaster, are you actually in support of people who violate the law and broadcast on FM or whatever?
Well, no. I just simply enjoy listening and logging what's going on. It is a phenomenon that I think that the government has, and they have never in the history of this country understood that people seek and will will be drawn to freedom and freedom of speech. And to me, it does seem a bit hypocritical, if you will, that the government wants to license the electromagnetic spectrum. It's kind of like saying you have to pay for sunlight. It's not something that I think the government can ultimately control. They can control it with threats, but on the other hand,
yeah, but yes and no. I mean, you said you've got a 20,000 station.
that's right.
All right. If somebody came along with a big signal, not 20,000 watts, but big enough to be clobbering some of your coverage area with some sort of blasphemous parrot station, you'd really be ticked.
Well, but I think that the proper means of dealing with that would be to deal with it as a property right and go through a local court to actually counter that. I don't know that the FCC is serving the function that it was ever intended to do. I mean, they're getting into the culture control, and I'm not a big Howard Stern fan. I do find him humorous at times.
Howard's funny.
But I don't think they should be fining him for the language he uses, because he's got a dial on there that turns the radio off. That's not the function of the government to tell us what we can listen to, other than maybe just to control the property.
I don't think he paid the fine. Actually, they fined the station.
Yeah, you're going to pay the fine.
And have they paid it?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Really?
You bet.
Oh, I thought they were fighting that to the death.
Last I heard, they paid that fine. That was done with.
Oh, no kidding. Has he stopped saying the words?
Not that I know of, and nor should he. I just don't think it's the government's fine. In fact, Congress will make no law abridging the right to freedom of speech. If you don't like it, don't listen to it.
Yeah, I really generally agree with that. I don't use that language on the air, but I choose to do so.
But that's your free choice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, if you look at the title of your organization, the Association of Clandestine Radio Enthusiasts, it would imply that it's made up of not only listeners, but doers as well.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they don't tell me that they're pirates when they send in their yearly dues for our newsletter.
Oh, they don't,
No, they don't tell me that they're pirates, nor do I ask them if they're pirates, and quite frankly, I don't want to know if they're pirates.
I see. All right, about Tampa now. What happened in Tampa? You said the SWAT team, this fellow was broadcasting what, first of all?
He was broadcasting rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
He had a little rock and roll station. He had 100 watts. You could hear him probably at the most 15 miles out from Tampa. He had a frequency that was not interfering with anyone. It was in one of those frequencies in the middle of two big giant stations. It wasn't interfering with either one.
All right, but let me take the broadcaster side for a second. Okay. All right, there he is broadcasting rock and roll. Now, 100 watts, properly at a decent altitude anyway, is going to cover Tampa very well.
Yes.
Tampa's a pretty good-sized market.
Yeah.
If I'm a rock and roll broadcaster in Tampa, and a commercial broadcaster, and I've got to pause every now and then to have a commercial broadcast that will finance what I'm doing. That's right. I'm going to have fits with some guy who's doing nothing but broadcasting music without commercials. I'm going to have fits because how do I compete against him?
Well, good point. Well, we would compete against him with better programming, but you are correct. I mean, it's getting down to the property rights of the spectrum, and I think that's the way it probably should be dealt with. You're right that he has seized control of a frequency that he has no right to, but I do think using U.S. SWAT teams is a bit of an overkill.
Overkill. Well, they do that like the IRS makes examples out of people.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's what the FCC was doing in this case.
I do believe in that Fourth Amendment. It does bug me when I see the government get into the overkill. Let's make an example of someone, because instead of making an example of someone, they make them a martyr.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I wonder on what basis they gain entry. In other words, he is not a licensed operator. Therefore, he has not sworn to abide by the regulation that allows the FCC with due notice to come in and inspect the premises and the equipment, right?
Well, yes, right. The FCC, the Communications Act of 1934, talks about interstate communication, not intrastate communication.
So then, on what basis did they knock his door down and come rushing?
They had more guns and more people.
Yeah, I know, but they had to have some kind of legal paper in their hand.
Right, and if you look at the search warrant, I did see the search warrant, which they did have.
Okay.
In my reading of the search warrant, it was more of a general search warrant, which is forbidden by the Constitution, than it was stating specifically, what kind of transmitter, other than just radio operating equipment.
Oh, any search warrant to be issued has got to be specific, does it not?
Well, that's the way I read the Constitution. But John Marshall said the Constitution was written for the people of this country to read, the average working person, not for the government. The way I read it.
I read it about the same way, but it's funny. I feel both sides of this issue.
And I do too. I truly do. But on the other hand, there is a proliferation of pirates because commercial broadcasting has let the community down.
Well, in what sense? I mean, you mentioned Howard Stern. All right? Howard's pretty weird. I'm pretty weird. I really am. I'm as weird as a lot of pirates are on the air here commercially. But then there is a lot of very cookie cutter radio out there, both in music and talk and just about any format you can name. So I assume that's what you mean by.
I think they let them down in a local sense.
All right, and we'll pick up on that dangerous little topic for me in just a moment. From the high desert, I'm Art Bell, and this is Coast to Coast AM. All right, back now to my guest, Pat Murphy, a commercial broadcaster himself. Hey, Pat.
Yes.
Have you ever put a pirate station on the air?
Yes. It was a long time ago. I'm past the statute of limitations.
Well, I want to ask you about the statute of limitations here because I want to tell a story. Now, what I did in the story that I want to tell, I did 12 years ago.
Well, I'm not a lawyer, but I play one on the radio.
Well, so advise me. Can I tell that story and not get in trouble?
I think you're safe.
All right, then I'll hold the story and I'll tell it a little while and I'll trust you. And I'll send you a bill if I get in trouble. But first, let us cover what is probably very dangerous stuff for me, because I am part of a gigantic conglomerate, J-Corps, which owns Rush Limbaugh, Dr. Lois Schlesinger, and myself. And I am on 400 radio stations, and I am very mindful of the fact that there I am on 400 stations. That means 400 local guys don't have a job. That means 400 local stations are not originating programming in their town or their city, but rather running my show from satellite.
Let me interrupt you for a second. I have to disagree with that. Because even in the beginning days of radio, they went to the networks. They went to NBC, CBS, NBC Blue. There was always some kind of a network entertainment that was coming in. The problem now is with the consolidation, and here in Norfolk is a good example. We had a fellow that had one local talk station, and it was a pretty good talk station. And he decided to buy another station, and in fact, he ended up buying 4 stations. He couldn't run them, and as a result, he ended up putting satellite programming on 4 of the stations. All 4 of the stations have dropped in rating. Right? That's where the problem is when an operator thinks that they're going to operate 4 stations at the same overhead that they operate 1 station. So I would have to disagree that you're taking jobs away from anyone, because all across America right now, there are board operators sitting there who are hitting the commercial times and are listening, and they have a job.
And, in some cases. In other cases, particularly in smaller stations, it's automated.
And you can usually tell.
And you can usually tell, that's right, because a switch will fail to go, and it'll be 15 or 20 minutes of dead air. It'll make it another tone.
How we love computers.
Yeah, I know. So, I am still mindful of all that, because I've always been an all-night kind of person. I've done all-night radio in a lot of single markets.
Sure.
And those jobs are, they're gone, basically. Now, again, consolidation has occurred. It has occurred with syndication. It has occurred with group ownership. And everybody's buying up everybody. I'm sure it's going to be a subject at NAB. Is the consolidation a good thing or is it a terrible thing for the listener?
Well, if you look at it isolated as is it a good thing or a bad thing, I think that we would all have to say maybe it's not such a good thing. I look at it as part of the cycle. I think you're seeing a cycle much like back in the 60s when the Schaefer automation systems came in, those ones that had the funny punch cards.
That's right.
Well, it didn't work as well as they thought it did, so they had to go back to local programming. I think you're going to see through this cycle where you have all these big stations that are big groups like J-Corp, Heritage, or whoever buying, and they're not going to be able to make the profits that they had imagined they were going to be able to make.
So then they'll have to turn around and sell off.
Exactly, but they're going to have to sell off at a loss. So they're going to get burnt, and they're not going to come back and revisit that area. They're going to have to sell to local broadcasters again, who are going to take the initiative to offer local programming. In the meantime, there are these petitions, these rulemaking petitions in front of the FCC. The one that I think probably is the most intriguing is the Skinner petition, which is 9242, which offers 3 classes of low-power broadcasting. One is the 50 to 3 kilowatt, which I think NAB will fight that tooth and nail.
I would.
But there's the 1 to 50 watt, and there's the 1 to 20 watt stations. These guys, if they are truly capitalist at heart, will take this and go to the small mom and pop delis, and which you can't buy the big stations. I mean, because with this consolidation, you're also getting this grid system of selling, where a commercial is costing you $100, $200, even in a market the size of Norfolk, Virginia. Sure, I think they could go to the mom and pop delis, the gas stations, offer them a means of advertising that right now is cut off to them. So I do think, and plus, there's another advantage to this.
Now, wait a minute. Now you're really stepping on toes. Because what you're talking about is not just the ability to broadcast information or music. You're talking about the ability to be licensed to actually carry commercial content?
Oh, absolutely. I think that to tell these people, yes, you can broadcast, but you can't generate the revenue for overhead is nonsense. It truly is nonsense. And to tell them, well, you can do it as a nonprofit. We know all the PBS, and I call them the Pleading Broadcasting System stations, are all tied into tax dollars. And not to mention the fact that they have to beg every 5 minutes for money to put it on. There is going on. Yeah. And I don't think these guys with the low power want to do that. I do think you have to give them the ability to raise revenue, but I don't think they're going to step on the toes of the bigger stations because the mom and pops can't afford to buy those big rates as it is. To me, it seems like it's a win-win situation. I do think, however, that at some point, if they can't make money, that you're going to see them start to either disappear or they'll go back to the pirate ways.
Well, look, let's say that 10 watts is what they decide on. Right? Even 10 watts in your town or something, you get an antenna at a half decent height and 10 watts, and you'll cover nothing.
No. I would disagree with that. I'd have to have it up to at least 100 feet. How many people in this kind of a hobby type of situation, which it is at this point, are going to be able to get an antenna up 100 feet? I think they could cover probably 10 miles maximum with 50 watts and getting it up to 50 feet, 60 feet, something like that.
Okay, I think, though, that you're being unrealistic when you talk about commercial opportunities for these low-power stations. That's where it's going to get unrealistic, and I guarantee you, when you start talking about that, the commercial broadcasters, the group, for example, that's going to gather here in Las Vegas shortly, would have a heart attack. Absolute heart attack.
Oh, sure, but it's going to take revenue that they aren't getting now, and so it's not really going to be a competition.
The competition would occur at 2 levels. One level would be in the ratings, and I will now briefly tell my story, because that's how I got shut down. When I was young and foolish and in the Air Force, I started a little pirate station in my barracks, just to play for people in the barracks. And it was listened to in the barracks. We were playing old love oldies, still love oldies. And we got called in front of the captain. Our captain, the first sergeant, said, Captain Marcy, we want to saw Captain. And he said, look, we really can't have the noise and can't have this going on in the barracks. But what you're doing is such a wonderful thing that I called Captain so-and-so, I won't use the name, over at the Mars station, military amateur radio station. And he has agreed to provide you with 2 rooms in the Mars station to run your little station. And this was at Amarillo Air Force Base, big Air Force Base back then. It's now been no longer there. So off we went, and I was always the engineer for these things, mind you. So I built a little transmitter. We went on the air. Then I built a bigger transmitter. I was running about 50 watts, but I had this gigantic antenna, full resonant antenna for our frequency, 1610 on the AM. I know way up the top, sure, clear frequency at that time. And we went on the air, and we were on the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 1 year, playing oldies. Everybody on Amarillo Air Force Base listened. Most everybody. Now, we were about 40 miles, 35, 40 miles at least from the city of Amarillo. And a town, city of about 150,000. Unfortunately, my efforts at building a better transmitter and antenna, which I constantly worked on, were working. And we had a signal in Amarillo. Now, Arbitron rates radio. And one terrible day, the Arbitron ratings came out for Amarillo, and our little pirate station, KMED, we called it, K-Medical Squadron, KMED, showed up in the Arbitron ratings. Well, just about every commercial broadcast station called the commanding general of Amarillo Air Force Base and said, what the hell are you guys doing out there? About 10 minutes later, we were standing in front of the general, preparing to have our heads lopped off. And needless to say, that day we went off the air. But because we were in a federal area, I guess it didn't go any farther. They shut it down. That was it. But for a year, boy, did we have fun. Yeah. We really had fun. Now,
well, certainly if you sold commercials, you would have drawn attention to yourself even faster. But I don't believe that a 50 watt or even a 20 watt station is going to take away revenue that the bigger broadcast stations are even going after at this point.
But if whatever proposal is made to the FCC is something the broadcasters can live with, then I think it's got a chance. I am a big proponent of low power broadcasting. I really, really think it's a good idea. I really like the idea, but it's going to have to, I'm realistic, it's going to have to be something the commercial broadcasters can live with, or it doesn't stand a chance. As you and I both know, money rules.
Oh, sure. And I don't believe that no matter what they come up with, it's going to do away with the pirates, because there's a little company up in New York called Ramble, and they make this delightful little kit that you can make your own little FM stereo station, which is 100 milliwatts.
I know.
They also sell a nice little amplifier that will boost it up to about a watt and a half.
I can better you on this. There's an easier way. You get the little driver at 100 milliwatts, go down to, go anywhere you want, and buy a cable TV amp.
Sure.
Drives the hell out of it, and before you know it, you're up near a watt, and you can even put a couple of them in there, and I don't really want to instruct people on how to do all this, but
I don't think it's going to stop the pirates, but I do think that the low power would fill a gap right now that consolidation has created.
If it doesn't threaten the commercial broadcaster, and I think when you start talking about ad revenue, you're threatening the commercial broadcaster. I'm telling you,
commercial broadcasters are threatened by everything. El Nino is a threat to commercial broadcasters at this point.
I know.
Or a son is coming up. We're going to threaten you today.
I know. I've got here's somebody who filed a petition for rulemaking Send me a fax. It's RM9242.
Yes, that would be the Skinner proposal.
Okay, well, I've got Skinner here.
Terrific.
So Roger Skinner, sure enough, I've got his home number here, and I can call him and get him on the air. And I may. Now, so anyway, listen. Ideally, if you do the rulemaking, if you could lay down the law right now, what would it be?
If I could do it, I think I would make it 1 to 50 watts, keep the height above average terrain to under 100